Hey, good evening. Welcome to A Foreigner in the Philippines. Well, a little while ago you may have seen a video in which I talked about a book that I had recently picked up. Well, I didn't exactly pick this up. I was given it by the author, and it's actually called Thyroid Book, thyroidbook.net. But you can't actually communicate to anyone on thyroidbook.net unless you prefix it. So that the correct email, I'm going to give this to you in case you are looking for the information on how to get this book and how to contact the Thyroid Health Retreat. So I'll give it at the front because so many people don't watch right up until the end and they miss the information that's given usually at the end. So I'll give it to you now. The email is admin at thyroidbook, that's one word, thyroidbook, thyroidbook.net, N-E-T, no .com. So you can get through to them. That's the Thyroid Health Center. There is an address here and it's in Davao, okay, Philippines. But you can get this book from them. When I was given this book by the author, as I say, and for some reason, it must have been a very busy time for Beth and I, and the book got put into a bag and forgotten about. So it was only a little while ago that I actually dug out the book and thought, hey, I remember this now. Now, the thyroid is not, it's not generally, people know all about that, they know about the thyroid. Oh yes, the thyroid, yes, but if you ask them where it is, they know as much about that as they do, say, about the pituitary gland. These are important, they are important units of control in the body, and there's little known about them. That's what's evident. There's little known about them. The reason I say there's little known about them is because when they start to malfunction, shall we say, surgeons or doctors in their wisdom actually remove the thyroid. To me, kind of like having trouble with the engine in your car and removing it, because, or say the steering wheel and removing it, or the transmission and removing it. You have to actually address the problem, surely, and deal with it. Well, why should you deal with the thyroid? What's so important about the thyroid? Well, I'm going to read from the book. Okay, so put my glasses on, my posh reader glasses. So what he's saying here is, obviously you came here knowing you would have to do something. So he's talking here not so much about, let me see if I can find out what the thyroid itself does. The thyroid itself, it actually governs various conditions in the body, which if those conditions worsen, then you are in a great deal of trouble. What does it affect? Boy, that's quite a list of things that it affects there. Okay. Menstrual pain, depression, skin problems, falling hair, brittle nails, infertility, endometriosis, endometriosis, I'm not good at doing the medical terms, PCOS, which I have no idea about, chronic fatigue, weight control, acne, eczema, brain fog, vaginal dryness, painful sex, loss of libido, let me see, what's this one, irregular periods, miscarriage, failure to ovulate. It's a pretty important gland, and we need to understand more about it. Now, for some reason, I don't know don't particularly know why, but I think that this is something that really has to be addressed if you want to be healthy. If all of those conditions would come about by having a thyroid that was not functioning properly, then I think that you really need to have a look at what it does and how you can get it onto the right track again. Alright, so we're actually, the man traces, that the author, John, he traces his journey over many years of treating badly, well, just treating but not curing, things like asthma, which he suffered from as a child and was in and out of hospital. And he says that it was so severe that he had, in his terms, he said it had priests raving their arms about over him from time to time. So evidently it was life-threatening. Well, what he does is present his case by telling some success stories that he's had about various people, how they came to be, how he came to finally realize that what he should be treating specifically for all of these different conditions was the thyroid. Now, the thyroid is a small gland that is wrapped around the voice box, I'm thinking, the throat. It's in the throat. It's not a big gland, but it's a very, very important one. Now, there's no point in talking about the things going wrong without you knowing that they can go right. And what he's talking about here is that this book is more of a manual than a regular book. We have included a recap to run over the major program points, so all the foods and supplements for and against health are listed here, where the big serious offenders are discussed now. Now, the big serious offenders in his terms are gluten. Now, gluten was always something that I heard about, gluten intolerant, and that people can't take it. And then now he talks about what gluten is found in. So he says, okay, so what do you think about wheat? Wheat is nothing like the old biblical wheat and has been changed gradually through natural selection until many other grains and crops, unlike many other grains and crops, which are genetically modified. The story goes that the chromosome count has gone from 7 to 42. Now, all of this doesn't immediately connect with me as meaning something, but it will get to it, I'm sure, in the book. It has been selected for volume of crop and many slightly different products, many other processing and preparing features, but something has gone astray. And wheat, like rye and barley, well, all grains for that matter, but obviously not all grains are created equal, there is a component called gluten. And once again, you will have heard the name, maybe even been told that some unfortunates are diagnosed with celiac disease. And fact is, they may be the lucky ones because the doctor will tell them to stay away from gluten. Gluten is a protein which, according to Harvard University, tears at the lining of the gut every time you eat these 3 specific grains, and to varying degrees for other glutens from other grains. So it looks like trying to get making any effort to get the thyroid back on track means that you have to avoid grains. Well, and there's quite a few, isn't there? Wheat, rye, barley. Well, all grains for that matter are suspect because they contain gluten. The gut is lined with a single layer, soft tissue imitation of a shaggy piled carpet. The lining is damaged, but it is normally not a problem because the body repairs the damage very quickly. So it is just when the body is running a little low that the damaged walls allow foreign particles to enter the metabolism. So obviously the gluten comes in, and in those tears it enters then into the metabolism, which is all about burning the food that you have and producing energy which will allow you to function. So whenever people talk about gaining or losing weight, they talk about metabolism. You know, that lady that you often see in front of you at McDonald's who orders a Big Mac, two lots of French fries, the 2-for-1 apple pie, and then breaks down at the end of it and says, oh, you better make that a Diet Coke, is probably something to do with metabolism. So, well, that's all slightly, well, one other sentence. Then all hell breaks loose as the immune system goes into action, creating autoimmune attacks on foreign particles in the metabolism. Well, slightly dramatized, but in fact it ends up traumatic for the health. So when the gluten gets in there and it starts tearing things up, the thyroid is there to protect. And when it goes into action on the immune system, that's the other crucial thing, that this is relating to the immune system, which is all about trying to keep you healthy. In spite of everything that you do to your body, it's trying to keep you healthy. Well, when it goes particularly crazy, then it starts into what this man calls the autoimmune system, and that can start to have problems. Right, so he's talking here about some of the things that you would not be able to eat. Those things which contain gluten are very serious, because now getting up and having a bowl of cornflakes or a bowl of oats, which I always used to have oats and have some honey and enjoy that. Here he's saying, well, no. So what is he saying? Let me see. You will find the number of products where gluten is mixed with sugar. Now we're getting to the other bad enemy number 1 or 2. I think they're interchangeable. Gluten and sugar. So sugar, the number of products which are mixed with gluten and mixed with sugar are enormous. So sugar will also take a dive in your digestion, and you will probably not notice it. You already know how damaging sugar can be, so it is time to stop procrastinating for the 4 weeks that this program would be on. Obviously I'm missing out important parts of this book, but I'm trying to, I don't want to sit here and read an entire book to you. I'm trying to tell you the important things. So he's saying, having told you about the sugar thing, obviously you came here knowing you would have to do something. So just relax and follow the instructions for 4 to 6 weeks. It's a 4 to 6 week program in which you can right the wrongs against your thyroid, which, in view of how many of those conditions it can be interconnected with, that seems like it would be a good idea. It's very interesting to me. It says, obviously, yeah, well, I've read that. Soft drinks are ridiculous, not delicious anyway. But it says soft drinks are dangerous and destructive. Look at what happened in Mexico, from low obesity and very low diabetes level to close by the highest level in the world in 15 years, because they gave the green light to CC. And I'll leave you to work out who CC is. Now, obviously we're not going on online here and decrying particular products. You have to work out. Sodas, it's been bad news for the longest time. It is one of those things that you drink those things ice cold, which is also bad for you, is to drink ice cold drinks, because it just isn't good for you, and it's connected with different things going wrong with the body. It's amazing that the body is an amazing thing when you think about how many things we try to kill it with, and yet it still gives us a passable life. So if you want to kill a country, do it quietly and peacefully. No war or troops, just sugar. Now, I got to agree that this seems to be something which is taking over the Philippines, because whenever we go anywhere, if we go down to that little sari-sari store where we get the man to make up a box of groceries for us, we tell him 1,500 pesos, can you make up a box of groceries, and he'll do everything. Right? We don't ask him to put any sodas in there, okay? But outside is crate upon crate upon crate upon crate of sodas, the empties, all been consumed by this tiny little sari-sari store out on the main road, and all of this stuff has been sold by him. So it's all been ingested by, and I'm one of the biggest offenders. Whenever I went out, and if Talik and I went down to the sari-sari store to get something on the bike, I remember we would have a treat, and we'd have a chocolate bar and a soda. We'd have an ice cold soda there, and we just loved that. That was a big treat. Not a big treat for her, actually, now that I think about what I'd been doing. So the chocolate bar and a soda as a treat, it's just not okay. So it says, yeah, if you want to kill a country, do it quietly. Just give them sugar. Now, I've watched Beth when she has a cup of coffee, and she'll have 4 spoonfuls of sugar in the coffee. Now, I remember a long time, many years ago, when I used to drink tea in the UK, and they suddenly put the price of sugar up from what was almost literally a few pennies up to, I think it was 26 pence a pound. And something irked me about that. I thought, I'm not paying that. So in one fell swoop, I gave up sugar. Now, it was about 2 years before I enjoyed a cup of tea again, but I kept up with it. Now, strangely enough, without any information, I'd heard that that milk was all something, milk and cheese. Now, I was a singer at the time, and I was sick of clearing my throat in order to be able to sing a song. You get the thickness in the throat, and that's apparently to do with gluten. So, much to the astonishment of everybody who drank tea, I gave up sugar and milk in my tea. And they all thought that I was being absolutely weird on that. But I gave up other things which had cream in them, right? Because I'd read somewhere that they were mucus forming, which apparently is all to do with gluten. So if you're suffering from that now, of clearing your throat, and it's disgusting, you need to be able to think ahead about cutting out some of these things in order to put the thyroid back into action. So after that, sugar comes in with millions of stories, and if you cannot find one, just sit at the checkout in a busy supermarket and watch the trolleys and observe the people and what they buy. Now, that's always an eye-opener when you do that. Now, listen to this. Well, this takes some swallowing. This is a bitter pill to swallow. One report came through recently about the state of health in the USA, which stated that 2032, are you listening to the numbers here, will be the year when nobody can work at anything productive anymore, because the 60% who are now diabetics will be bedridden, and the numbers will have grown in line with statistical projections. 20% will be needed to look after the sick 60%. There's a sobering thought, isn't it? Now, I'd known for a long time, just by looking around me, I can see that the the population, generally speaking, are obese. And the thing is that even when you're in your 70s, you should be able to take a brisk walk. You should be able to take a country walk. This man, once he started to gain the benefits of his own research, he's 74, was able to do running with his son, who was into running. And they entered a few, I've forgotten now so I won't quote it, but they entered a few kilometre measured runs. And he completed those without, well, he's not dead, so he's written the book, so he did okay, and he's doing okay. Now, it says, the rest will be too small or too old to do anything much anyway. Sugar is as addictive as alcohol. Boy, I know that. Or cigarettes. And just as damaging to the health. Now, that much I didn't know, but in my various research that I've done on my own, where I've found that sugar is a deadly companion to cancer. So those people who are having tons of sugar, they've got to watch out. Okay, it's a sad prediction, but fact is there are movements away from medical reliance to healthier life, and if it all kicks in, the problem will be solved. If you have been following natural health for many years, there is no need to worry, because there are hundreds of sweet things, even without resorting to deadly artificial sweeteners. Plenty of selections from day-to-day consumption. Now, that was always, when I first started to think in terms of trying to give up sugar, and I looked to Coca-Cola, and I looked to all the various other drinks that would offer you an artificial sweetener. I mean, a Coca-Cola will have as many as probably around 100 calories. So if you're trying to lose weight and cut the calories, you need to have, if you're obsessed, if you're determined to have your Coke, then you're going to have to go for the Diet Coke. And the Diet Coke is just 1 or 2% of the calories that the regular Coke is. So it seems at first as if that's a logical thing. But then I started to read about some of the artificial sweeteners that are used in various products. It's not a pretty story. Now, if you use honey, do not buy the supermarket one, as it is heated during extraction, which chemically changes honey. Hello, honey, I wasn't talking to you. So, it changes honey into a basic sugar. Yes. It changes honey into a basic sugar anyway. Not much point in that. Honey in its raw form is a very rich and exciting sweetener, full of nutrients, while the other popular ones include stevia, maple syrup, xylitol, and coconut sugar, even molasses. And he talks about molasses at some thing. Okay, so he says, if you're over the worst breaks of your heart, you can rest relatively easy. Here's a list a mile long, or I can tell you in a few seconds if you're switched on to what your body needs. And after all, you're reading this book. Oils are a big thing along with fats. And the fact is the thyroid diet does need healthy fats. So it's not a question of just cutting out all of the fats, and I'm guilty myself on this. One of the things that I always go for is the low-fat milk. Apparently we're not really being told the importance or the real story on these things which profess to be weight loss oriented. It actually doesn't seem to work. So anyway, I think I've done as much damage to your attitude towards your diet as I can for right now. I'm very disappointed myself because I love chocolate. I do have the what's called 3-in-1 coffee that's here. he says coffee is out. So life is not looking terribly cheery for me at the moment. No coffee, no chocolate, no Cokes or Mountain Dew or whatever, any of the sodas, and got to cut down on the sugar. Oh my God, what's left? So we're hoping to look in the next installment. We're hoping to look at what is next and what we can eat. And if you're having problems with those items that I said, just to give you a quick run through again: menstrual pain, depression, skin problems, falling hair, brittle nails, infertility, chronic fatigue, weight control, acne, eczema, brain fog. He knows about me. Vaginal dryness, painful sex, loss of libido, periods. If you've got something there which might fit in, it might be worth learning more. That was actually my viewpoint, was it might be worth learning more. So I can't expect you to like, comment and subscribe. Well, I can't expect maybe comment and subscribe, but liking might be a bit of a reach. Thanks for looking in. If you can, like, comment, subscribe, and look out for the next thing on the thyroid and that book, thyroidbook.net. Don't forget admin at thyroidbook.net. And let me tell you that was written for the Thyroid Health Center in Davao in the Philippines by John Ruby, who we met and was a very savvy guy. Thank you, John. I hope you got my email, and I hope you're now looking in and seeing that your book is gaining, perhaps a little push in the right direction. Look in again and get in touch with me. Bye for now. This is Foreigner in the Philippines.